And to build up to the biggest game of the year so far, I'm joined by a resident football expert, Matt Holland. He's a proud Evertonian, but Matt isn't always happy to talk about Liverpool Football Club and their treble bid. But as a football pundit, one has to occasionally suffer as well. Matt, Champions League Final is a spectacle, but you wonder sort of how much gas is left in the tank of these two teams, because it's been a long season, and with the Euros happening last year, most of the players didn't get too much of a break.
Obviously, it's a tough challenge for both clubs, but you know, they have to give every single ounce of energy, blood, sweat, tears, however you would like to describe it, to this last game. You know, it is the big one, shall we say. Of course, is a debate about the Premier League or the Champions League for some people, one over the other. But in terms of when we get to this stage over these next couple of nights, you know, everybody will have their eyes on who is going to be the European champion.
Matt, Jurgen Klopp has hailed his Liverpool team as mentality monsters. Now, to stay alive in the quest for a quadruple over 62 matches sort of says a lot. And would you agree that even without a Champions League, this season is probably the greatest ever this century, if not all time?
It's a really tough question to ask, because, you know, people will always look back and the old cliche of, you know, they don't remember who was runner-up. But I think now at this level, you know, people do remember great teams that finished second. They do remember great teams that are fighting all the way. And let's be honest, it was all the way, wasn't it? It was in the last 15 to 20 minutes of the last game of the season for the Premier League. But I think for them to really push on all four fronts is a remarkable achievement. I saw Gary Neville post about, you know, the treble winning team of Manchester United. It's never been beaten, etc., or bettered. So there's still that accolade to go for, but ultimately to compete in all these four competitions is unbelievable. It's incredible.
Okay, Matt, there could be 8 members in this Liverpool squad who started that defeat against Real in the 2018 final. Mohamed Salah's comments show that they haven't forgotten. And you sort of have got to admit that this Liverpool team, they bear no resemblance mentally to that side, despite the personnel being the same, more or less.
Yeah, of course. I've just read this afternoon now that they've also apparently got Dua Lipa on their side, you know. So I think from that last final, I mean, they are growing and growing by the season in terms of their level. They are not just a mentality monster, but they're a monster that one cannot describe. In my personal opinion, to be honest, they are incredible. And I think these players now, they will come out. There's a few players with contract issues, still not resolved. Maybe they are thinking about, you know, to go and play in that all white. Do they want to win the last game? If they don't win it, will that force them to shift on also? There's so much around it. But I agree, you know, that psychologically, I think that after losing the Premier League title now, I think this may be a step where they can go again, and they might just do it over Real Madrid.
Can the same though be said about Real? Because let's face it, it's an aging squad. In 2018, they were on a run of sustained success. You know, it was 3 in a row. Do they go into this game as underdogs?
They've had a break, haven't they? They've had a little, well, not so much a break, but they've had more time to prepare for this game, because they won the league title a bit earlier. There was a few players rested. Obviously, the last league game that they played, you know, the starting 11, if you like, went back into that game. But underdogs is a difficult one, isn't it? Because, you know, the coach that they have, the players that they have, and obviously the club that they are in this competition. I wouldn't probably say it's a game of underdog and favourites. I think they very much have to be level pegging within their own right.
You know, I'm going to ask you to wear your pundit's hat. Does this one-off format suit Liverpool? Because just look at Real over the course of the knockout campaign, and lots of come from behind wins over 2 legs, especially 150th to 180th minutes. Is that going to be a factor?
Yeah, I think it's a great point that you've made there. I think that this may just, in terms of the fixtures and the matches that have been played, I think this statistic will play a little bit of a part in maybe in the minds of Madrid. That they've needed the 2 legs to clear the certain specific rounds. Liverpool haven't quite needed that to the same extent. I think Liverpool will have more energy. I think they'll have more dynamics within the team in terms of getting up and down the pitch. The aging team of Real Madrid will, of course, lean on all of their experience and their calmness in possession and to try and dictate the game with 1 or 2 moments of magic maybe from the front three. But certainly, there's an opportunity for Liverpool to not totally overrun them, but just to get a little bit of an edge within the 90 minutes.
Carlo Ancelotti is a very fine man. He's a very astute coach. He stands on the cusp of history. If he wins, he's going to get to 4 Champions League titles. No person has ever won that many titles. But how does he stop Liverpool from playing their heavy metal football? Because they're not going to change.
I think it's a huge challenge because they are not really a team to adapt and change too much. Especially in midfield, we know that Casemiro, Kroos and Modric will play if they are fit. I don't think he's going to put Camavinga in. Camavinga has been exceptional off the bench, especially in the Champions League. They might try and cheat a little bit with, obviously, if Trent and Robertson play on as both fullbacks getting forward, they might obviously allow Vinny Jr. and Rodrigo, if he plays, to sort of hit them on the break and the counter. So this is really a threat for Liverpool, to be honest. But again, if they leave them high, then they're going to be less in terms of defending numbers. They're going to have to rely on those that are in, and Alaba is only just coming back now. So I think it just could be down to some moments of real brilliance from individuals.
Okay, you did mention that because Jurgen Klopp will not abandon his beliefs and neither will his players. But the big question which everyone sort of wants to know is how do Liverpool stop Benzema and Vinicius? Because it's been those two who have been central to the league win, and if you sort of shut those 2 players down, then you can put your money on a Liverpool win even though you're an Evertonian.
It's of course difficult to stop these 2 guys. I believe that Konate will play in the game instead of Matip. He's been ever present, more or less in the Champions League. He's pacey, he's powerful, and he's able to cover wide when obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold goes forward. But Benzema, is an unbelievable player, and Vinny is very much an individual on his own in terms of what he can do, what he can change, and what he can create in games. So this is going to be a real tough challenge for Liverpool. I don't think he'll abandon. I think they'll be clever. They'll adjust. It'll be very much a chess match, as all big games are, aren't they, at this level? Aside from those moments of brilliance. But I think if Konate can really deal with Benzema and Van Dijk, I think they may be too strong, even with his level. I think they might be able to keep him out.
Let's look at it from another angle. This Real team are aging, there's no question about that. Liverpool, on the other hand, have most of the players in the prime of their careers, 27, 28, up to 31, Henderson's 31. Do you get a feeling that this is the last hurrah for many in this great Real side? And that's probably what makes them dangerous, because you talk about Modric, Kroos, Benzema, Marcelo and Bale are also about to leave.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe, of course, there's a lot surrounding Modric, isn't it? And staying and wanting to stay. And, teams can be a little bit sentimental, of course, not at that level, but I've even been in situations myself when players are due to leave. And last minute, there's a U-turn because of the feeling with the club, how they are. And age doesn't always come into that, to be honest. It shouldn't really happen, in my professional opinion. It should be completely above what players can offer. Can they continue to carry through? But maybe it's not such the last hurrah, but they may decide to bow out if they win. If they don't, they may think that they can go one more time. So I still think there's a little bit of uncertainty with some of them just because of how things can change so quickly in the game.
This is also probably an audition for the Ballon d'Or and the FIFA Best because Benzema, Salah and Mane, they've sort of gone and rewritten the record books this season.
Yeah, well, it's certainly, you know, I don't think Messi is gonna get particularly close. Ronaldo may still be around there because of obviously the goals that he has scored this year again, and let's be honest, not a great side, and a lot of turbulence within the team there at Manchester United, or the club rather. So I think in terms of these three, for me, it's going to be between Salah and Benzema. Will Benzema finally be crowned in terms of what he continues to deliver year after year at Madrid? But then Salah, you know, a player that has got so much quality. Potentially, he could leave, obviously, when his contract runs out. You know, a player that comes from, obviously, the African continent, which is also great for their football and the African people. So, you know, he also get a lot of votes. And I think it'll be real neck and neck between those two.
Let's see how that race pans out. But finally, Matt, where do you think this final will be won?
I think Liverpool will edge, and I just think that they'll have a little bit too much energy in the right moments, even when the games are tight. I don't think it'll be a boring game. I certainly think there'll be a couple of goals in it after the first one goes in, and I do think that we should be looking at probably, there'll be no surprises. There'll be Salah, there'll be Benzema, Vinny, maybe Mane, who will actually cause the most damage in the end. And I think these four will come up with sort of match-winning moments, but I think Liverpool will edge.
Okay. Matt Holland, as always, thank you for your time and inputs. It will be a good weekend if Liverpool can win a Champions League title. But we'll get back to you to review that final and the European season on Monday when WION Sports returns.
Thank you, guys.